This video should help you with exercise 2E on how to factorize 4 terms. So far, all of the examples we've dealt with have had 3 terms, maybe an x squared term, an x term, and a constant term. You'll see here in these examples that they all have 1, 2, 3, 4 terms. Here 2, 4, there's 4, there's 4. In these last ones, we could put these together and make 3 terms, but this is going to have a use when we go into more tougher types of factoring. So we're going to practice doing this here already. The idea when you have 4 terms is that often you can't find something in common between all 4 terms. Otherwise, we would be able to pull a common factor, but you may be able to find things in common between 2 of the terms. And so we're going to factor in groups. Here in this first problem, there's nothing in common between these first 2, so I'm going to rewrite it to put some things in common. So let's do 3ab, that's okay first, and now let's put something that has in common. I could put the 3ad, but let's make it a little bit more interesting for now. Let's put the b there. And in the second set of that I'm going to factor, let's add d. So 3ad with the d. So using a different color, I'm going to show you that I'm grouping them from here. Oh, my computer's a little slow today. Let me try that again. So I'm going to group them from here, these 2 together, and then I'm going to group these 2 together. Note that I undid the D there, that I very specifically put this sign with the second group. When it's positive, when it's a plus sign, it doesn't matter so much. Put the D back on. But when it's minus, it's going to make a difference. So that sign goes with the thing that comes after it, goes with the term that comes after it, so we'll include it in the second group. Now I factor by grouping, by looking for something that's in common only between these first 2 terms. And that very obviously is the b. When I divide the first term by b, I get 3a. And b divided by b doesn't make them disappear. Remember, anything divided by itself is 1. And that's very important that that doesn't just disappear. b divided by b is not 0, it's 1. In the second group, I also have something common. It's a d. Since everything's positive here, I just put a plus there. And then I end up with 3a, and d divided by d is also 1. And if we're factoring with 4 terms, with the types of things we're going to be doing later, this fact that what's in the brackets here and what's in the brackets here is the same should always happen. If it doesn't happen, then you've probably factored something wrong along the way. So you'll notice 3a plus 1 and 3a plus 1 is exactly the same. So we're going to factor out 3a plus 1. Yeah, factors don't just have to be single numbers, they can also be groups of numbers. So we're going to factor out 3a plus 1. Since it's a group, I'll put it in brackets to keep it together. And I look at what happens when I divide each term by 3a plus 1. If I divide this by 3a plus 1, I get b left over. And if I divide this by 3a plus 1, I get d left over. So that makes b plus d. And now I have 2 factors that multiplied together would give me this expression. Okay, let's try it with this next example. I'm going to group them right away in the order that they're in because these 2 have something in common and these 2 have something in common. Oops, I didn't take the sign with it. It's positive, so I was lazy, but I should officially take that sign with it. So in common here is an x. Pull out the x and get x plus 2. I changed colors, sorry about that. And here I have in common between 5 and 10, I have a 5 in common. The variable is not over here, so it's just the 5, and I have x, and 10 divided by 5 is 2. And then you see again the bracket is the same, so we pull that out. And the other factor is what we have left over once each term is divided by x plus 2. So that's going to be x plus 5. Might see if I had added this together, I have x squared plus 7x plus 10, and that if we factor that the old method, that will also give x plus 2 times x plus 5. So two ways of getting to the same answer, but this factorizing with 4 terms is going to come in useful. So that's why we're looking at this way of doing things as well. Okay, another example, this one with negatives. Here it's very important that I take that sign in the middle with the second group. Again, look for what's in common, x. So take out the x and get x plus 3. And now here with the minus sign, always take out a -1, or just a negative, as part of your factoring. Because when this third term is negative, it's easiest to take the negative with it. Besides that negative, I also have a 4 in common between these two terms. And then I'm left with x, and now be careful. -12 divided by -4 is a positive 3. And I have the help that I know this bracket's supposed to look like this bracket, so that also helps me to remember, oh right, that's to be positive 3. -4 times positive 3 will give me -12. Okay, then pull out the x plus 3. And I'm left with x minus 4 for the other factor. Okay, one more example. Again with a negative sign. Okay, take out the x, and I'm left with x plus 3. Now here, I don't actually have much in common except for this minus sign. So I'm going to take out a -1, and I am going to write the -1 there because you'll see it becomes important in the next step. When I divide -x divided by -1, I get x. And -3 divided by -1 is positive 3. So I get my two brackets the same and can write that out. And now with that -1 there, we see that the other factor is x minus 1. If I hadn't written that 1 in there, I might forget. Let's just look at that for a moment. If I just wrote the minus sign there and didn't have the -1, then I might think there's nothing there and just write x. But x plus 3 times x will give me x squared plus 3x. I won't get this part. I need the -1 to get the minus x and the minus 3 back again. So that's my final answer. That's why when you're doing this, it is helpful when you pull out a negative sign as a factor to include the 1 this time. Normally we don't have to do that, but here it's helpful. Okay, that's it. It's a short exercise. Practice that a little bit and you'll be ready to go on to factorizing by grouping.